This new wave that we on right now. Can we vibe? Can we vibe? I love this new wave that we on right now. Can we vibe?
How's it going, man? So tell me, what went into this story? You know, what story is being told tonight?
Man, wow, that's a complex question, but really, if I had to make it succinct, I would say it's a story about Bone Thugs. It's not the Bone Thugs and Harmony story, but it's one of them. You know, it's a story about them, and so really, this focuses on, I think, 3 different parts, and one is Krayzie and Bizzy and their journey to record New Waves, their new duet record that came out this last year. And then the city itself, the city of Cleveland, which we all know is very important to them and their themes and their music. And then a third part of that is sprinkled in the history of Bone and the whole band. So really it focuses on Krayzie and Bizzy and the city of Cleveland and then their history and what they've offered to hip hop, which is obviously a great deal.
What was it like to be a part of the production on this project?
Well, I mean, you know, growing up as Bone Thugs and Harmony fans, as we all did, obviously, once you get past the starstruck era, then you realize you got to go in there and do your job. So, you know, Tim and I, being obviously large fans, which gave us the interest of doing this in the first place, was like, all right, that was a cool couple seconds. Now let's put that past us and let's get to work and start breaking this down and start figuring out the best way to craft this story, because these guys are living legends, still trailblazing the way, you know, they handle their music industry, you know, clothing lines, you name it. These guys are living legends. So we just kind of had to be like, hey, this is cool. Now let's kind of, you know, get down to what we do best, you know, as filmmakers. And fortunately, it wasn't our first rodeo, but it was nobody's else has, you know, kind of maybe come this far in this kind of version of what we decided to do with the way we told this story. So that was cool.
The title, Sons of St.Clair, you know, why that title? It evokes a feeling of home. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, man, the craziest thing about the title, Sons of St.Clair, is it came to me literally one night when Steve Lobel told us that, hey, Krayzie and Bizzy, you're doing this duet album, New Waves. We had already came up with a title for the larger biographical piece about Bone called Thug Redemption. And that was the title we were sticking with. And then when Steve Lobel told us, hey, man, you know, these guys are working on a duet record, and obviously that's such an interesting story in itself. I went home that night after he told me that, and it just came to me, Sons of St.Clair, and I think that really just harks back to their lyrics and their music of how proud they are of Cleveland and where they're from and their neighborhood.
Called Sons of St.Clair from them sometimes.
Well, Bizzy actually, when I first told him the title, he loved it, and he actually thought of, man, this would be great for my son's album or record or whatever. But yeah, it just came to me because I think it just made sense, man.
Who is this documentary for?
This documentary, I think at its heart, is for Bone fans. First and foremost, it's for the Bone fans. Secondly, I would say it's for Cleveland, the city of Cleveland and the people of Cleveland. And then thirdly, I would just say it's for everybody, man. If you're a fan of documentary storytelling, if you're a fan of music in general, there's a something in there for everybody, I think, really.
Any parting words from either of you?
Well, you know, just to piggyback off of what he said, it has such a broad spectrum. You know, in other rare screenings that we've done, Cleveland probably being about to be the biggest one. You know, we're anxious to see how many people, because this festival brings in so many people. We're anxious to see it, and you know, we're going to be biting our nails in the back. But one thing I will say is, from what we've small tested and what we've seen on a smaller form, everybody from older people to who've maybe never heard of them because they're in their 50s, 60s, whatever, just didn't jump into the music that we jumped into, were like taken aback by just how much they were like, wow, this is like such a bigger story than just, you know, this particular group. It's such a bigger story than, you know, just a group from a smaller town. It's kind of an American story. It's an American dream story. These guys came up from nothing, and they've really made their way in the world today, and the footprints they leave behind them are ones that I think they're very proud of. And then on that, it touches with history and the development and the struggle. The struggle really, you know, anybody can relate to struggle. So this is just a very broad spectrum of who this movie's for, but it starts with the built-in Bone audience, you know what I mean? And that's really important, and then Cleveland being second to that, you know, so that's what we're excited to showcase here today.
Definitely, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time.
Yeah, thank you.